Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at an unlimited Darkfeast Bat deck. Of course, Darkfeast Bat doesn't tend to be necessary for this deck in particular, as this deck is very self-sufficient as far as both healing and defense goes, as well as being a good ping deck. I've played a lot of Darkfeast Bat, in a lot of different expansions, and this variation that they've been using in Unlimited currently, which is becoming fairly popular or is already fairly popular, it does a wonderful job of just being a Darkfeast Bat deck and protecting itself without having to rely on your opponent not killing you outright. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So our first game here, we're actually going to be playing against Sword, which is a fairly interesting one, another reasonably quick deck. Even in Unlimited, Sword is still mostly focused on being quick, excluding, of course, discard Sword, but you can usually tell that within the first few cards played if they're going to be a discard Sword. So it's usually a pretty predictable one to go up against. And this deck actually handles itself alright against either deck, as if you've watched my discard Sword video, you would know that Blood is typically a reasonably close match, regardless of type. So our opponent had no turn 1 play, we did, which gives us an edge right off the bat. I decided to go for the Blood Pack, trying to dig for cards. Also, a really nice combo to use in this deck, of course, is Vera and Diabond. If you can play that on turn 5, especially if you're going first, it really does a wonderful job of giving you that healing that you so desperately will need. And I did decide to go for the Flower Bed of Parish play, just kind of working things out. This deck doesn't run Florus, which I made the mistake, I think twice actually, in the 2 games I'm going to show you guys, or maybe it's just this one, of not realizing immediately. I should have realized it when I looked at the deck list, but since I usually just throw in the decks and then give them a go, then look at the decks kind of after a bit more, I missed that initially. So really, it was kind of unnecessary for me to deal so much self-damage, but since this deck focuses a lot more on healing and defensive through amulets and spells, it's not really necessary for Flourish to be, of course, in this deck and be a focus. So I probably made the mistake of doing way too much self-damage too quickly. At least we get the chance here, though, with Vera and Diabond to defend ourselves. We are going to be able to take out at least these wards, which is not a bad thing, while setting up that healing. It's going to definitely come in handy, and we've even got another Vera and Diabond to use if we want to. Partial Strix, that's definitely a rough one to get though. That's going to be a Vera killer right there, which is not a good thing, and it's also going to allow them to be just 1 off lethal. Not something you'd usually see. It looks like a neutral sword variant of some form, and that really does pique my interest a little bit. So I decided to go for the Vera play again this time. Instead though, we're going to throw it in with the Omen. So we're going to actually be able to take out everything in this board reasonably easily. Well, we could probably actually just leave the Goblin up. It's not much of a threat at this point, to be honest. It's not going to kill the Vera on its own, and that would pretty much spend the whole turn getting rid of it. So why not just leave up the 4th, well, now the 5-4 and the 3-5. Which, no surprise, they conceded, because they most likely couldn't get past Vera without wasting their turn. And so, getting right into the next game, we are going up against a Dragon.
Time to get started.
So, if you haven't noticed, my last few Unlimited videos in particular have been mostly short form videos, I think excluding the Rune one, I think that was reasonable length. But a lot of Unlimited decks are relatively quick and very easy to showcase, as they run on very straightforward engines that are very predictable in their lines of play, but are very powerful in those lines of play. So they make them very easy to show off, and pretty much every single game will play out in a similar fashion where no crazy combination really has to be reached, as you're pretty much just playing them straight out. So I didn't really have a turn 2 play in this match. Of course, getting the turn 1 play, very important if you ever can. Getting it out, always good. Again, I believe it's very difficult for this deck to, of course, have no turn 2 play normally, but Restless Parish was not going to be worth wiping out my health just to heal a tiny amount again. Not yet anyway. I'd rather use it on a Vera turn, similar to the reason you use Diabond. So again, I did make the mistake of thinking there was Florist in the deck and playing it out, since these games were very close together and I hadn't checked the deck list. I was like, oh, whoops, this is where I realized, oh, Florist isn't in the deck. Then it finally clicked for me, but the self-damage on its own is pretty worthwhile, considering you have Darkfeast Bat, you have Evil Eye Demon, we've got Omen. All of those make it worthwhile to deal that much self-damage, since we can use those to their fullest. So I did decide to go for the Evo and also to go for the Wings of Lost, since next turn with Vera is actually a viable play. So we should be able to protect ourselves alright. And even if we can't, we potentially are setting up lethal now. So Raging Dragon it is. Pretty decent trade-off. Dark Dragoon, that's a really, really good play. They're going to take out a large portion of my health now. And my Omen of Lust, fortunately, it was a really good counterplay. Even though I have to play Vera now, I can't afford not to. If I didn't play Vera, I definitely would have been dead next turn for sure against any kind of dragon player, really. So, definitely worthwhile. Now searching. What are they going to look for, though? Obviously nothing. Our next turn would have been a little clunky, since I don't really know what I would have done if they cleared our board, but we probably just would have went for draw. So overall, I had a lot of fun with this deck, and it does a wonderful job of being a really good blood deck. It is on the heavier side for legendaries compared to some of our recent unlimited videos. I mean, Vera, Valkyrie, or Valkyrie, I don't know. Anyway, Omen, Darkfeast, that, you know, that makes up quite a few. That's 8 legendaries. It's almost as much as most rotation decks. It's kind of in that kind of average for legendaries now, and that is a little expensive, but it does the job, and it does it wonderfully. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, guys, see ya.